Whether it's high atop the local mountains or down in the valley bottoms, a small but dedicated crew tends to one of the city's most important assets, its trees.
Those big cottonwood.
They're not only beautiful, they're essential for the community.
They need a little bit extra love.
And this crew works tirelessly to keep the trees healthy and reduce wildfire risk.
Fire moves through and those trees are still left standing.
Every tree tended to is another step towards a stronger urban forest.
The trees are a big asset to us and a very important thing for us to manage.
Because urban forestry isn't just about trees, it's about the future. It's a rainy morning at Hot Sands Beach, but for the city's arborist crew, it doesn't matter. There's a job to do. Dead and weak branches on the cottonwood trees along the beach need to come down. If they don't, the next windstorm could send them crashing to the ground, posing a major safety hazard.
You never really know what'll happen if you leave it. It could stay up there for 20 years in high winds and not come down, or it could be a calm day and a dead branch just breaks out of the tree. We just try to mitigate those hazards by, taking it out ourselves before anything can happen.
Earlier, a slingshot launched a rope over the highest branch, giving arborist Chris Hergott a safe path up. Once in position, he pauses,
Good morning, world.
taking in the view that only comes with this kind of work.
I think it's the best job, climbing. It's awesome just being up there, and the view, you think it's nice and then you get up there and it's twice as good as you think it's going to be. You can see pretty much the whole city from these trees.
Now, it's all about precision. When you're 50 feet up, there's no room for mistakes.
You're always thinking about being secure as you move through the tree. You want to have the least amount of disturbances and foot slips, and you're always double tied in. Anytime we make a cut with a handsaw or a chainsaw, we always tie in twice, so we have 2 ropes holding him into the tree just in case something happens and you cut one of them.
One final check with the crew below.
All right, all clear?
And the branch falls with precision. On the ground, the team moves in to haul the dead wood away for chipping. As Chris swings through the trees, he notices one more branch hanging over the beach that needs to be removed. With this tree safe again, it's on to the next. Earlier in the week, the same crew of arborists geared up bucket trucks ahead of a day of block pruning in a Mission neighborhood. It started with one alert through the city's service request system. A homeowner commenting on an overgrown tree next to the sidewalk beside their home.
We go and we assess it to see if it's a valid complaint, and I'm sure whoever showed up saw that, yes, this tree was drooping quite a bit, needed to be lifted, and then noticed that every other tree on the block, or most of the trees on the block, also needed to be lifted up.
It's estimated there's 3 million trees in the city, both on private land and those on city property and parks. The care and maintenance of each tree on city property is the responsibility of the Parks Department. And for these trees, it's clear they need some attention.
Which is lifting trees that normally get hit by, say, dump trucks or larger vehicles, lifting them up, making all the trees pretty symmetrical to each other, or makes the city look quite good.
Every cut is carefully thought out so as not to damage the trees.
They're using all of their training and knowledge as arborists to ensure they're making cuts that are accomplishing the goals we need of keeping the roads and the houses clear, as well as working with the way that the tree grows to promote its health and safety.
The crew moves fast, taking down only what's necessary.
These trees are very healthy and can grow quite quickly, so we might be out here every 3 years to 5 years doing something like this.
Keeping the block safe and looking sharp.
The trees provide a lot of value to the neighborhoods. They help with heating and cooling costs. They add some beauty to the neighborhood. They're known to increase property values, and they also are a benefit to the wildlife in the area too.
They'll continue to work tree by tree, block by block, until the work is done. The trees within the city boundary, known as Kelowna's urban forest, is a critical part of the city's infrastructure, helping to cool streets, filter the air, and control flooding. In 2023, LiDAR mapping gave the clearest picture yet of the city's tree canopy, revealing that 22% of Kelowna is covered by trees. In addition to maintaining the existing trees, to meet the goals of the city's urban forest strategy, 80,000 new trees will need to be planted by 2050, about 3,100 each year across parks, boulevards, and neighborhoods.
That requires a substantial effort in both planting the trees, but we have to find spots to plant them, sometimes build out these spots, and we also have to water them until they become established, and then we have to maintain them for their lifespan.
Hitting this goal will require planting on both city and private property. That's why the city runs the Neighborwoods program each year, offering young trees for residents to purchase at a heavy discount, encouraging everyone to help grow Kelowna's green future.
So the trees that get planted in Kelowna are a benefit to all of us, so it's a very worthwhile venture for the city to be involved in.
Even as city staff and private property owners work to expand the city's canopy, intentional destruction shows just how quickly progress can be undone, and the cost is far greater than what meets the eye.
This incident was reported through our online service request system. So a park user noticed trees that were down.
In Mission Ridge Park, someone illegally cut down 10 ponderosa pine trees without permission.
So the trees are city property in the same way that a tree in someone's yard is private property. We don't see it a lot. Unfortunately, it does happen. People know, but they do it anyways. I think people assume that it's either not a big deal if they go cut down a tree, if they go prune a city tree, or they think they won't get caught.
It's a devastating loss, and one that could have serious environmental impacts.
So they provide slope stability services, essentially, and when we have homes uphill and homes downhill of these steep sandy slopes, it's really critical to have trees and other vegetation on these slopes.
The worry is now, without the trees to provide stability to the steep hillside, washouts or landslides could become an issue. With a file open with the RCMP, the consequences are steep if the culprit is caught.
There is a value associated with that tree. We have a standardized system of appraising the value.
In addition to the value of each tree, there's a fine of up to $50,000 per tree destroyed, plus potential criminal charges associated with the destruction of property.
This is a big deal. Trees take a long time to establish and grow. In our natural area, we do have a high mortality of seedlings. As soon as they get into 10 or 15 years old, they're a lot more likely to survive. So we're looking at reforestation of a select number of trees. It's going to be very expensive because it's a difficult to access site. We have to provide watering to make sure that the time and money we invest in planting the tree actually pays off with a healthy living tree. So we have to water for about 5 years after establishment. Yeah, it's going to be a long process. It's going to be quite expensive.
At the top of Lakeshore Road, crews are hard at work mowing the sides of the road and bike lanes.
Plants will take over, the bike lanes will get crowded, creating, physical barriers and hazards for people, and as well as a giant fire hazard.
Through a process known as flail mowing, the vegetation is trimmed, reducing fire risk.
The mower runs about a 4-foot mowing deck, and we will take whatever we can in that mowing deck. So within that mowing deck itself, and it'll take grasses, small trees, any shrubbery that's along the roadside, and basically reduces it to mulch. It's a multifunction unit. We also have to watch out very closely for hazards, for rocks, for debris, for garbage in the ditch. So we're always looking down and to the right.
A hot, slow, noisy job with 3 machines working 5 days a week through the growing season.
3 people, 3 different sections of the city going basically from the beginning of May till the end of September, middle of October. We try to average between 50 and 70 kilometers a week, lane kilometers a week, and that's on a good day, and that's usually per machine.
And after just 2 or 3 weeks, this area will be due for remowing. While it's important work, the impact on traffic behind the mowers is not lost on the operators.
Patience is the key when it comes to working around us and machinery. When our boom is down and we're mowing and our work lights are on, the flashing amber lights, we're usually mowing between 5 and 7 kilometers an hour to get the best results out of the mow. Any faster and we won't be doing a good job. Any slower, we're not being productive.
Down the hill in the Lower Mission, another Parks team member is watering trees near Casorso Elementary.
And all I do is pull out with my wand, water, turn it off, pull ahead, water, all day long, 10 hours a day.
Each tree in the city needs to be watered at least once a week.
If you can imagine, probably a week, 10 days without water, this it's done.
Progress is tracked by an app showing the watering status of every tree in the city. This year, a new innovation along the Casorso bike lanes is changing the way newly planted trees are watered.
It's actually supposed to look like a garbage can. Garbage cans don't usually get vandalized, but it's just a holding tank with an irrigation stub on it with a black drip that goes around the base of this tree here. And it's just a drip that continuously drips out constantly all day long.
Each box only needs to be filled about once a week and allows for more efficient absorption.
I can just come and do these 4 boxes once a week, take me about a half an hour. I can go on and do other things. If I had to come here and water them just by hand by myself, I'd probably be a good hour doing that. You have to let the water absorb.
At the top of Dilworth Mountain, Nate Lucier, a contractor for the City of Kelowna, prepares to thin out a group of trees known as a stand.
When I look at this, I see there's a couple trees in this stand here that we're able to thin. And what that's going to do is it's going to potentially reduce the critical surface intensity of a wildfire in the area, as well as provide access for firefighters from the City of Kelowna Fire Department, BC Wildfire Service, to come in here and actually action a fire safely.
Earlier this year, urban foresters went through this area, creating a prescription of what needs to be removed to keep the forest healthy.
So those are written documents that we are kind of our guides when we're out here doing the wildfire mitigation work. So they're done by registered forest professionals, and essentially us contractors receive those, and it's basically a plan. So we cut down trees to that plan specifically. The prescriptions that are written are carefully curated to make sure we keep a balance of our natural aesthetic, ecosystem values, as well as working on wildfire risk.
Thinning and trimming the forest helps prevent wildfires from spreading into the canopy by removing ladder fuels, smaller trees and underbrush that allow fire to climb. Keeping fires low to the ground not only protects larger trees, but also makes fire more manageable for crews to fight.
Mitigation doesn't stop fires, it doesn't prevent structural loss, it just reduces the intensity of fires so that we can actually take action. A treated area creates that defensible space where we can actually do direct attack on a fire, because it reduces the intensity of the fire. The fire drops down to the ground, it doesn't get up into the crown of the trees, so the tops of the trees, and it's not as aggressive in nature.
In a campfire, you start with your kindling, and you start with some newspaper, maybe some grass, and you get that going. Once your kindling's going, you can throw on a hearth log or a bigger log. What we're doing this fuel mitigation is we're removing the kindling from the wildfire. So it stays just as a grass fire. The overall heat that's coming off the fire is less intense, so it most likely will stay on the ground. And then as well, it's a lot safer for fire crews to come in, for the fire department to come in and actually get a handle on the wildfire.
And we're all going, there's a fire on Clifton, we gotta get out of here.
This was the scene on the Kelowna side of the lake. This was the little fire from only moments ago.
This practice has already paid off in 2023, when wildfires threatened homes near Wilden, and earlier in the year on Knox Mountain, both of which had previously received a fuel treatment.
This is the site of the July 1st, 2023 Knox Mountain fire. It was very windy that day, so we had these hot winds blowing upslope, and the fire came up the slope. And as we can see here, a lot of the trees at the top of the slope died, but a fair number survived. When you came in here right after the fire, the trees didn't actually burn. The base of the tree burned, the surface fire happened, and it was the heat from the fire that actually killed these trees. But because we didn't have a crown fire when the crowns are fully involved, BC Wildfire responded very quickly with air tanker support, and the Kelowna Fire Department came in right behind that, and they were able to stop the fire in the tracks in this treated stand.
A clear example of how proactive work on the ground can mean the difference between damage and disaster.
If the City of Kelowna hadn't done field treatments in here, we would have lost homes.
The trees are a big asset to us and a very important thing for us to manage.
With some 3 million trees within city boundaries and 80,000 more to come, taking care of Kelowna's urban forest is no small task. It takes a dedicated team every day to make sure these trees stay healthy, growing, and resilient.
We have a very small team and we accomplish a lot. People don't always see us out and working, but we're always out and working because we have a lot of space to cover.
Through planting, pruning, and protecting, they're helping to ensure that the city's trees stand strong for generations to come.
People love their trees, so when you can make it look even better, they're quite pleased. And it makes you feel pretty good.
Whether it's keeping homes safe from wildfire or cooling the streets on a hot summer day, the trees in Kelowna's urban forest are more than just scenery. They're essential. And for the crews maintaining the urban forest, the work is never truly finished. Tomorrow, they'll be back at it, growing a greener future for Kelowna.